All right, I got one last article here, and this is actually I took this one out for my boy Ty because it's a deep cut into some taxes. We won't get too far in the details here, but the title of the article is from Bloomberg. It's by Brandon. I'm not going to attempt to say his name. We'll link the article in the description. But anyway, what the title of the article is: New York's out-of-state taxpayer money is suddenly up for grabs. And so the kind of catchline is the work from home loophole could cost nearly $700 million a month. And the biggest winners in this are Connecticut, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Win big after going out after what would normally be taxed by New York City or the state of New York. So the whole context around this is New York, much like California, has very aggressive tax laws and wants to claim as many income tax amounts as they can. So if you live outside of the state of New York, but you work inside New York, your money gets taxed by New York, and they're very aggressive about going after that kind of money. The thing is, though, the tax law kind of has a provision in it, and it's kind of an unknown one, but it says that if you work out of state and you work remotely, you're still, they use the word nexus. The nexus of the business is still in New York. You must pay unless the remote work or the out-of-state work is required as part of the job or due to requirements or out of necessity is the word that they use. And so as of right now, the states are kind of playing nice, and they're allowing New York business that has a worker that's supposed to report to New York for work but is now working remotely. They're allowing that to be still taxed by New York. But then the issue that the article makes is post-pandemic, when they're losing a bunch of this money due to this, those states that might have a shortfall in tax revenue could go to this law, hire lawyers, and possibly win the tax that's due to New York because of the section 132.18a or whatever it is for the New York tax law. So I kind of wanted to get your idea from a tax perspective, Ty, and from Charlie too, whether this kind of makes sense, or do you think that we're going to see like an outbreak of kind of not to use the word outbreak too much, but we're going to see a rash of kind of these court cases deciding and kind of codifying state laws?
Well, and I think the nuance in the discussion, I mean, the way you talked about it, I think is right on, is that it's pitting the states against each other. And the nuance there to be clear about is that, and I don't know if there's any arbitrage between the rates of New Jersey and New York, for example, but I imagine that there's probably not much, in the sense that New Jersey has state taxes, New York has state taxes. And if you're a worker, if you're getting taxed by New Jersey, I don't know that you have a preference. Like if you live in New Jersey, but your company is in New York, you pay tax to one of them. So from the worker's perspective, from the employee's perspective, they're like, I got to pay tax to some state. I may not really care which one unless there's a sizable difference in the amount that I would owe to a particular state, right? And so what this comes down to then is, well, if all these workers are staying at home and they normally would have paid tax to the state of New York because that's where their offices were, and they just keep doing that because that's their normal way of filing their tax returns, and they're not paying attention to this, right? So you can totally see how this would happen. Is like if you're a worker and you live in Connecticut or New Jersey or wherever, but you normally have your office in New York and you've been paying tax to New York for the last few years, and then this year you go to file your tax return, you're probably not thinking, oh, I'm going to switch and not pay tax to New York. Now I'm going to pay tax to New Jersey where I live. That's probably not at the top of your mind, and that's not something that you're thinking about doing. And like I said earlier, you may not even care because there may not be much of an actual cash flow difference for you as the worker, right? But who cares? Well, just as you said, AJ, it's the states that care, right? This is where New Jersey or Connecticut might come into this and be like, hey, all of you people who live here and have been working from your houses in our state, you need to file properly and not pay New York so that you can pay us, right? It's all about, assuming there's only one pie and the states have to divide it. We can't double tax and have the worker paying the same tax to New York and New Jersey. Assuming that can't happen, yeah, it's just how are we going to divide this? And so, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, whether those states do anything proactive. I think that's why the article was calling it kind of a tax grab, right? Are those states going to do anything proactive to take advantage of that situation and try to get that tax?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the kind of situation that they're referring to. And yes, to clarify, it was talking about states going after, that tax money related to the people that's working in that state. And so I thought it was a very interesting thing and something that I don't think I had thought about it as an accountant, even though I'm not, tax based in my previous experience, but something that as an individual I wouldn't think of, I
Yeah.
wouldn't think of when I'm filing a tax. So
Well,
interesting.
and here's the other kind of interesting angle on it that I was thinking about is like if you think about what those taxes are supposed to pay, it's supposed to be for all of the things which happen in that state. And so as people who used to commute into New York decide to then stay in New Jersey, the idea that New Jersey would then get that revenue which New York otherwise would have, and then that's viewed as a not a crime, but that's viewed as a problem in the context of the article. But it's like if you really step back for a second and you're not involved in either one of those states, aren't we just kind of admitting that costs which New Jersey or New York once bore are now going to be bore by another state because all of the cost associated with that tax, all the police or whatever needed to be done with that tax money is now going to happen in that other state. And so it's a reallocation. It's not so much that in my view of it, it's not that one state is pilfering from another. It's that the services that used to happen in a work state are now being migrated to a home state, and that happens to be New Jersey. And so I don't even view it as a problem as long as everyone is able to comply and work within the, framework. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. If you're asking about the tax policy itself, I would agree. I'd agree with Charlie that it seems reasonable that if people are not actually commuting to New York, that there's no reason for them to be paying tax to New York, and that presumably means that they're using more services in their home state, and so paying more tax to their home state seems like it would make sense on those grounds.